Hello, one and all, and welcome back to NG Meets. It's episode 27, and this week's guests are the fantastic Tiffany and Theo from Rene House. Rene House, for those that don't know, is a community interest company providing support and accommodation for vulnerable adults in the Nottinghamshire area. You may have seen an article with Tiffany and Theo in the Nottingham Post shortly before Christmas about what they do, which is where I heard about them. I got in touch, had a chat with them, and I went down a couple of weeks ago to their head office in Sherwood Rise to have a chat with them and find out more about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and just the whole basis around it, and of course how people can support them. It was a fantastic chat. These are such hard-working people. They're so passionate about what they're doing, and where they've got to in the last sort of 18 months to 2 years is pretty incredible, as you'll hear in the show. Having started with basically nothing, other than passion and some background knowledge. They went out there, they learned about this, they got around people, spoke to people. It was very hard work, and now they're in a position where they've currently got 2 properties, which is providing high quality accommodation for vulnerable men in Nottinghamshire. Great, and they're planning to keep going. It was great to talk to them and find out more about these 2 fascinating people, and hopefully you'll enjoy this show. We cover a lot of topics around homelessness and the stigma attached to that, and the importance of offering people support and the right support, and and how that plays into it, and the importance of sort of knowing what you can and can't offer at the moment. So it's a great chat. Hopefully you enjoy this show. Hopefully you checked out last week's episode with the brilliant storyteller, poet Panya Banjoko, and then previous to that, obviously, we had the sports personality of the year, unsung hero, Kieran Thompson, on the show talking about his work. And I know from chatting to Tiffany and Theo, they know Kieran. Obviously, they're both doing brilliant work in the community. So we've got more episodes coming up. I'll talk to you about what we've coming up at the end of the episode. As ever, you can check out everything we've done at ngdigital.podbean.com, where you can also follow this show to make sure you get all the newest episodes. We are available on iTunes, where you can do the usual, like, subscribe, review, etc. Spotify, Podcast Addict, and various other podcast apps. Whatever you're using, you should be able to get the show. So that's it. And of course, you can find us on social medias, and facebook.com/ngdigital, Twitter's at ngdigitaluk, and we're also going to be making use of Instagram moving forward. You won't find anything on there at the moment, but if you go to ng.digital on Instagram, we are going to be making more use of that to get the podcast out there more. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoy this. This is NG Me's episode 27 with Tiffany and Theo from Rene House. This evening I'm here with Tiffany Brewerly and Theo Brown from Rene House. I think I've pronounced that right, have I?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for joining me this evening.
You're welcome.
Excellent. And I just want to kickstart things off then. If you want to, or one of you want to sort of give us a little background on what Rene House is and what it is that you guys do.
So we are a social enterprise that provides supported accommodation for basically homeless adults, specifically homeless males at the minute.
In a nutshell, we provide housing and support for vulnerable adults. We have houses in Nottingham, and that's where we are from. I was born in St Anne's. Tiff was brought up in Broxtowe, so we're Nottingham through and through. We've lived there basically our whole life, so we thought start a business, which we've always wanted to do. and actually help people, and just using our experiences. So that's what we do.
Excellent. So when exactly was it that you sort of Rene House got started, or you guys got going?
Originally, February 2018, and then we set it up August 2018 and got our first property in October 2018. So just a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half. So when we first decided to fully go for it in February, it took a while to do a load of networking, a load of like researching what we needed to learn and what we needed to know about, and going out and just telling people about what we're doing before we actually then launched and decided we went for it.
Oh, excellent. And had either of you any background in a sort of social work and recovery work, helping people and things like that then, or was it sort of a just jumping in?
So my background is sort of health and social care, mainly towards the care side with children and adults. But it's more, I think, once you've been in an organisation that helps people, it's kind of across the board really. We've both come from sort of helping people and supporting. Theo's background's like mentoring and coaching. So our skill base is working with people. So, but my background predominantly is in the health and social care sector.
So I've got experience, like Tiff said, I used to work in a secondary school for supporting kids with special educational needs and behavioural issues. And then my last full-time job was working in a bank, so supporting people with their finances, and obviously a lot to do with money. So obviously those kind of skills come in handy with people when it comes to the budgeting and different bits like that. So we've had skills, we've had experiences that lead to skills that support us in what we're doing, but not necessarily directly supporting homeless people. But we've also had a massive interest in property as well, which sort of makes up the two sides of the business, which is providing good properties and supporting people. So between us, we felt that we had enough knowledge to go forward.
Excellent. I mean, it's brilliant to see that sort of initiative. So when you were first getting going, as you said, there was a lot to do at the beginning, networking and getting out there. And how did you find sort of the reception to that? Were people really keen, or were there a lot of walls to sort of knock down?
Depends who you spoke to.
A mixed bag. Most of the time it was a mixed bag. People were sort of saying, "Oh, that's a great idea," but at the same time they were like, "Well, I can't help you with that. That's a great idea, but So it did depend who you spoke to. If you spoke to anyone in the voluntary sector, in the third sector, they were like, "Oh yeah, that's great," but in more of
when we went to like more property events, it's that thing where a lot of landlords are uncomfortable letting their houses to people on benefits and people who have different issues, whether it's drug and alcohol issues or mental health. So I think from a landlord's perspective, it's a little bit like, well, why would you do that if you can just rent to someone who's working and get paid and not have to worry about, do you know what I mean, the stereotypes of people on benefits?
I think it's tenants. The unknown though, isn't it? I think the concept of supported accommodation, nobody really talks about it, especially in the property side of things. And we were going to these property networking meetings, and one that we've been going to for like 2-3 years. And then we've said, oh, this is what we're going to do, and it was a completely new thing to them. So anything that's new is quite scary. It's either exciting or really scary, or both. But they were quite like, well, I've never heard of that before. So it was a bit, I think in the beginning we were like, is this even a thing? Have we made this up? This is not, but it's because there's not a lot being said about it. There's a lot being said about homelessness overall, but especially back 2 years ago, there wasn't sort of a light shone on the services that are available.
And especially how to go about setting it up and setting it up properly. That's been a lot of, I don't know how it's just literally going out and gathering bits of information from everywhere that we could, and kind of trying to decipher what's good advice and what's bad advice, and seeing. I think the whole idea of wanting to have our own sort of organisation comes from the frustration of having loads of different jobs between us and finding ourselves constantly in that position of, well, if I was in charge, I'd do it this way, and if I was in charge, I'd do it that way, and finally now deciding on a way that we can create a business that creates value in our community and for other people, and then actually being in a position to make those big calls and make big decisions and saying, well, we are now in charge, so we'll do it this way or we'll do it that way. So
that's quite interesting, because that's not the first time I've heard that. Recently I spoke to another person, and they had a similar kind of thing where they've been working in sort of child care homes and things like that in that industry, and they were so frustrated by the limitations put on them there and how little control they had over what they could do, that they kind of went the same way and set up their own organisation where, you know, that sort of, this is what I want to do, I'm not able to do it here, so I'm going to have to go, no one else is going to let me do it, I'm going to have to go and do it.
I'm going to have to do it myself.
And I mean, it's like you say, and it's interesting when you talk about landlords, because that was one of the things I was wondering, because obviously, like you say, all they can see is the risk. Because that's generally how they've got where they are.
I think we just started in a difficult climate, because especially in Nottingham, if you're a landlord, you're winning at the minute. I think in 2019, the house prices in Nottingham rose the 6th quickest in the UK or something like that. Or Nottingham saw the 6th biggest house price rises, and rents are constantly going up. So landlords at the minute are in a great position. So it was kind of like, why would they need us? They're having no issues renting out. There's way more demand for properties than there is supply. So it's kind of like, if you're a landlord, I'm good. I don't necessarily need to work with a company like us, but fortunately we were able to create a good relationship with the landlord, and he gave us our break, really.
We saw I think it was more, we saw the value in what we were doing, and to be honest, he was with us from the beginning throughout it as a friend anyway. So he saw the amount of work we were putting in, the amount of effort we were putting in, and he helped us be accountable for what we were doing as well. So it was a nice transition, I think, from him being a soundboard, and sort of listening to, you know, what we were trying to do and the frustrations and the hardship of it all, and then celebrating our wins with us as well. But then he actually offered us the first property that we got in October 2018, and it was a massive breakthrough for us, because it's all, the theory is great, and having, you know, it's all great, but until you actually have, you know, the property to do it, it's all just talk. And we really needed to prove that to ourselves as well that the concept worked.
I think it got to a point where, so imagine from February to about September, we were constantly going out talking to people about, this is what we're going to do. And obviously in the beginning, when we didn't really know the answers to all the questions, we'd go to networking events, and not through people being mean, but people genuinely asking and wanting to find out more. They'd be like, well, what about this? What about that? And it's kind of like, well, I don't have the answers now.
Because we've not
experienced it. And through that sort of a good few months of that probably built up some resilience. And then we'd come from an event, or we'd come from meeting someone who's absolutely grilled us. We'd go away and we'd find out the answers to those questions. So when we're next faced with those questions, it's kind of like, well, actually I've got the answer now. And do you know what I mean? But I think actually being able to work with someone throughout that time who then, like Tiff said, saw the hard work that we were doing in terms of going out there, talking to people, and seeing how frustrating it was to just be talking about it. For him then to turn around and actually offer to do something to help us was really good.
Yeah, it was. It's just
grateful
massively grateful to him. But it was nice because we had that relationship with him. For our first property, he had a much better understanding, and he sort of understood that, okay, this is your first, so, and he was checking it. He wasn't checking up on us. He was just saying, is everything okay? Like, you know, have you dealt with the processes of this, that, the other? And I think it was really nice, and actually we were quite blessed to have that, because he understood it's our first one, and at the same time it's kind of a trial for all of us.
Yes.
We didn't know how it was going to go, and it's you know, it's gone really well. So he actually gave us our second property as well, so clearly saw the value in it, and the value in the relationship. So it's definitely a relationship that will continue. But it's also nice because now other landlords can see how it is, and we know how it is, and we can explain it a bit better.
Yeah, you've got physical and actual almost case study that you could present, as opposed to, like you said before, as opposed to just a theory. You've got it. It's going well. It's working. And obviously, a key part of that is because the landlords, is for them the big risk is, are they going to pay? Are they going to keep the property in a good condition? Are they going to leave it and I'll be left with a massive repair? But then they've got an intermediary in there. I know you guys, you have a sort of agreement that anyone that goes into one of the homes has to have to meet certain requirements and keep standards and things like that up, which is going to be key for landlords. And it's also because obviously there's a lot of stigma. I mean, you know, the media, and we've had TV shows. That is kind of, you can see why landlords are worried, and as you said, the market it's a landlord's market in Nottingham, and of course Nottingham as well has a massive, especially around the city, students. So there's always a massive market for new residents. So you've got a lot to go against there.
It's definitely like I said, it's a difficult climate that we started in, and knowing enough about property, we understand that property is very cyclical, so it will go round, and we're hopefully we'll still be here to offer people the options of, obviously when there's issues with people being homeless, we'll be here to offer them an option. But then when property does its cycles and it's no longer a landlord's market and it's more a tenant's market, and there's loads of properties and only a couple of people fighting for them, and landlords are struggling to rent out their properties, then we'll still be here offering the same thing. So we pride ourselves on the fact that we kind of see ourselves as being that middleman between serving both tenants, obviously in our case homeless people, but as well being friendly with the landlord market, because we very much value what they do, and we've learned a lot. We understand
it from their perspective as well. Because initially, before Rene House, we were going to be landlords ourselves, just your typical landlord. So we already had that sort of, well, obviously we didn't become your typical landlords, but we had that understanding and knowledge of what they would like and expect, which is why, you know, to be fair, we're really open and honest with them. We don't. A big question that we get by most landlords is, "Oh, but you're gonna charge me less. Like, you're gonna give me less rent." And we're really fair, to be fair, because I would, if I was that landlord, I'd think the same thing. And I think we're just fair across the board to anyone involved. And it's just them seeing a value in what we give overall, rather than just their property. We do everything. We maintain the property. We're in there ourselves, or our support workers are in there like throughout the week. So yeah, it's maintained highly. The standards are really good.
Yeah, I think that's something that, coming from, like Tiff said, coming from the background of looking into being private landlords ourselves, now it is a landlord's market, but at the same time, if you really want to get your top rents, then the bar's being set very high. Competition from, especially even in your student market, coming from your purpose-built student accommodation, the bar's being set very, very high. So there is a lot of accommodation out there now that 5 years ago at a really rubbish standard would still rent out, but today that standard isn't quite cutting it anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we've learned a lot from some really good, experienced landlords who are providing absolutely amazing accommodation. And yes, it might not make sense to provide that level of accommodation, but we still want to provide very good, solid accommodation that looks nice. And we believe that if we provide something that's of high value, then people will look after it regardless of if they're a working professional or a person coming off the street.
If they can have pride in it.
So that's it. They just we do get a lot of comments on the standard of the houses. There's always going to be some people that are like, oh, why would you give someone such a nice house? They're only going to ruin it. And we've heard a lot of that.
To us, that's totally backwards. Of course, if you give someone something that isn't very nice, then they're less likely to look
motivation
to.
It's like, say, pride. You take pride in it. We've had, to be fair, no real issues with them not looking after the property. Because why wouldn't they? It's their place of living. So I think there has been a lot of, we always get those, and now that we're actually doing it, before we got the houses and people would say that, we would be a bit like, oh, like, do you think that's going to happen? And now we kind of laugh it off and go, come round to the house if you want to see the standard that is kept, throughout. And I literally put a video on Instagram the other day. We'd gone into one of the properties and the guys weren't in, but we'd gone in, and I put a story on our Instagram to say, just to show you, this is what we've walked into.
This is genuinely what we've just walked into, unannounced.
Yeah, it was like we'd just handed it to them. Obviously it looks lived in because it is, but it was clean, it was tidy, probably looked cleaner than our house. But it's well looked after. They look after it and appreciate it. So and why wouldn't you want people to have a nice place to live? Really?
I think, again, it comes from that stigma and assumptions made, doesn't it? And I think people forget that, most people who end up homeless, a lot, are generally there's a variety of reasons. It could be anything from addiction issues to losing a job to, domestic violence and things like that. So but obviously there's this idea that, they're just failures type attitude, and that plays into, like you say, so they just assume, they're not going to look after a house.
But when someone's lost everything, they're much more appreciative of what's in front of them. And I think we're not going to sit here and say that every, just like people say every homeless person is this, that, the other. We're not going to sit here and say that everyone that we've come across is appreciative of the service, but the majority definitely, because it's a chance to start again. And I think
the way that we do it, there's not really, I think it's kind of like there's the potential for damage to be done to the property, but as a landlord, that's a risk that you take on regardless. Do you know what I mean? So, and if you can take on someone who's earning loads and loads of money at the start of the tenancy, and 3 months in they lose their job, they stop paying rent, they have a bit of a downward spiral, their partner leaves them, and then now you're a landlord who's got someone with maybe another 6 or at least 3 months left if it's a 6 months tenancy, and you've got someone who's not paying rent and they're on a downward spiral, they're not looking after the property. So there's just as much chance of that happening with a working person as there is with someone who's... we literally said this the other day, that actually we know a lot more about our tenants than a standard landlord will know about their tenants, because we get a referral form come through. So just as much as a landlord does referencing, we check the background of all of our...
it's all risk assessed.
Yeah, it's all risk assessed in terms of...
we know a lot more about our residents, because when they do get referred, there's a whole backlog of their history. It's not just a couple of landlord references.
Yes.
It's a history of them as an individual. You know what to expect. We need to know that information to know, can we support them safely, and give them the adequate level of support that they need, and if the service is for them. So yeah, and I can remember when we first started out, and we were looking at a house, and someone said, well, I just want a normal family living next door to me. And I remember saying to you, first of all, what is normal? But I know some really rowdy families, so it's kind of like, you could house what on the face of it seems like just a normal, if that's what you want to call it, normal family or a normal couple, and actually they've got some real issues going on. But just because they can pay rent, it doesn't mean, people are people, and everyone has their own issues and their own battles. So it is quite frustrating, and we've come across some of the nicest guys. To be fair, we've got some of the nicest guys living in our properties, so it's a risk whatever you do.
Yeah, being a landlord is a risk.
But I'd much rather do it helping someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. So you mentioned there, obviously, people come to you via referrals, and how difficult, particularly initially, is it? Because these people obviously have had a rough time, a lot of them, and they used to be arguably a lot let down and feeling that there's no one there to help them. So how difficult, particularly first, is it to sort of to win those people and make them understand that you want to help? Because, like I say, they've probably, a lot of them have had pretty bad experiences with various systems, be it social services, DWP, things like that.
Yeah.
So and then there's another person coming along saying they're going to help.
Yeah, that is a very real situation, and there are certain situations where we are just another agency who's blowing smoke up the backside, telling them that we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and so it is kind of like when we try and meet each person before we accept anyone into one of our houses, but that's a chance for them to interview us as much as it is for us to interview them, do you know what I mean, and see if we're the right service for them. And I think first of all, we just try and be very, very honest with them and just say, we were quite honest with all the people that we met that we're a new service and we don't have all the answers, but we work with you to find out what areas you need in support, and we will do the very best that we can to support you in that area. And if we can't do it, then we'll find someone else who can. Whilst we're providing you with a base, a house to live, some security and all of that. So I think that's the first place that we start, is just being as honest as possible with people.
I think, it takes time to build the trust, if they've been in and out of the system or never out of the system, and they've just been passed from pillar to post for whatever reason, they've not found somewhere that works for them. It's about building that trust, giving them time. First of all, giving them time to settle in, and explaining the process from, when we first meet them, like Theo says, before they've even moved in. We give them the option as well. It's not saying you have to move in, because a lot kind of just get put somewhere without having the choice, the option. And we say, if you want, you can come and see the house first, if that would make you more comfortable. We give them that option. You don't have to move in. We're not saying you have to. And then it's explaining, this is how it's going to work once you've moved in. This is what we'll do within the first 4 weeks. This is how your support would continue. And these are the sort of, we try and establish when we first meet them and we assess them, what goals they want. And then we'll say, well, this is how we can help you to achieve these goals. And I think, again, we were literally saying earlier, talk is cheap, and they've heard a lot of people talking, and people have said all the right things, but they need to see that you're doing it. You're going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's just time. They'll get that over time. So, if for us, when they first move in, we let them settle. We check in on them, make sure that they're all right, make sure they've got everything they need. And then we start booking the support sessions, start planning around them and their needs. And it's just being consistent, and again, just being honest. If they want us to do something that we can't do, we'll tell them. If there's a support service that we don't know how to access, we're just really, really open and honest with them, and that works both ways really, because in return they're honest with us.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things that has worked well for us, kind of touching on the last conversation, is around us trying to keep the properties looking as nice as possible, especially when people first move in, because it's that first impression and the way that we present our properties we see as a representation of us and what we stand for. So we've had on a number of occasions with a number of potential residents who have come to see the property or just moved into a property being like, wow, do you know what I mean? In terms of other accommodation and other options, it's, do you know what I mean? We're up there and we try and make sure that we have that impact. We want that sort of reaction when people walk into somewhere. We've always said that we want people, we want anyone to walk into our property and not know that it's supported accommodation.
Yeah.
It just looks like
It's a home.
Yeah.
So I think that breaks down a lot of the initial barriers of, you're just another company who's just going to come in and you just see pound signs on my head and stuff like that. So I think that, that's one of the biggest things that's we've found benefits us.
I think it's reassuring them as well that there's no rush. We've had, for instance, a guy move in and panic. So he's thinking, well, I've got to move on because you're not going to want me here. We're not judgmental. We understand everyone comes with problems, with their issues. And I think it's reassuring them and explaining to them there's a process to this, and we're not saying that you've got 3 weeks to get yourself sorted and move on, because that's not, for most people it's not realistic. So it's reassuring them. We say they can stay anything up to 2 years, but again, at the end of that 2 years, if they're not ready to move on, we're not going to say we've been here 2 years, so you've got to leave the service, because our main aim is to help people and, like I say, to rehabilitate them, but mainly to get them into independent, safe accommodation for themselves, whatever that may be for them. So it's just reassuring them that, unless something drastic happened, we're not going to turn our back on them, and we're not going to, expect them to, I don't know, we're not miracle workers, and neither are them, and it's just being patient and, I think that's the main part of it.
I think that's sort of security for them, that this isn't just this isn't just a couple of weeks, couple of nights, but also there's that importance there of the realization that these people, every single person is a different case, a different scenario.
Yeah.
This isn't a one fix for everyone.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all.
Everybody's got different needs, different issues, different mountains to climb, and it's no good. It's great you get them into a home and things, but it's no good just chucking them into a house and then leaving them, because then when they do eventually, the odds are that quickly they'll be back in exactly the same situation, because
not resolving it,
I think it's with us, which has been quite difficult at times, though, is we've had to be very honest with ourselves in recognizing what we can and can't deal with. So when we talk to referrers at the minute, and they sort of ask, well, what's your criteria for someone coming in? We always say sort of low to medium needs, and we understand that that's different to everyone, but we say, because we provide floating support, which means that it's not 24 hours, we have support workers that drop in the house do you know what I mean, every day, every couple of days, whatever it is. It needs to be someone who has a level of autonomy and can sort of still do basic things for themselves. We don't do any sort of personal care. We don't cook for them. Again, if they need help with it, then we can support them in teaching them how to cook, like basic things, but we don't sort of administer medication and all of that stuff. We stay well clear. So it's kind of understanding what we can provide and what we can't, and that means that unfortunately at this point some people fall outside of our remit, which is horrible, where we've had to get referrals for people, and we're kind of having to say, no, we're not the right service, and we know that this is a person who's probably been referred to all of the other services, and like you've got Framework, you've got NCHA, you've got YMCA who may not have bed spaces, because I know they're obviously packed at the they're constantly full. So
it's just an issue across the board, isn't it? There's not enough beds.
There's not enough beds, full stop. So it's horrible to have to turn away someone, and when you're getting the whole story of this person's gone through an absolute horrible time, and then you're sat there and you then have to turn around and tell that person, no, sorry. Even if you've got a bed space, it's like, we've got a space, but we can't put you in there, sort of thing. That's the not so glamorous side of it. That's not nice. But
and even if a big part of what we do as well, and a big thing that's massively important, I think we as a service, we do focus on massively, is matching residents to live together.
Yes.
I think a lot of, we've heard from our residents themselves when they've lived in other accommodation, is that you're around people that you can't necessarily better yourself being around certain people. And as we say, everyone's got their own sort of battles. So we are very particular in terms of who's placed together. If we've got a bed space and we know that what the current residents' issues are, we try to make sure that whoever moves in is not going to hinder their progress, and have a negative impact on their progress and their sort of journey with us. So we have to be quite strict when it comes to that, because these are two people, for our houses are 2 bedrooms, but they're 2 people that have likely never met, don't know anything about each other, and to live with a stranger in any other situation would be hard.
Yeah.
But to live with a stranger when you're facing your own battle of mental health or drug and alcohol addiction, and coming from being homelessness in an uncertain situation, to then live with someone who's got the same or similar issues to you, it's scary, even more scary, because you don't know what to expect. So I think it's definitely something we put a lot of focus on, and to make sure that they can live in, we don't expect them to be best friends, but to live in harmony and to be able to
get on with it.
To get on.
Not without conflict.
Not want to kill each other every 5 minutes. That would be nice.
I think it's one of the things that's really coming out, obviously, is the amount of upfront work you put in. But also because, like you were saying there, of how difficult it can be to tell somebody and to have to see somebody and not feel that that you can take them on. But I think the fact that you're aware of that and you do make that decision, as hard as it can be, is huge, because I think it would be so easy to just say yes to everybody, particularly, like you said, when you've heard they've been through the system and things. But by doing that, like you're saying, putting people that you don't have the resources or skill set to offer that person support, you'll end up helping nobody.
We're likely to make the situation worse, because if we're not equipped to help them and support them the way they need it, we're, to be fair, just delaying the support that they do need, which they...
And then it could be the worst case scenario if we've got someone who's probably living in a house, there's a empty bed space, and they're doing all right, they're on their path, and we put someone in who we can't support, then not only are we not going to support that person, that person's then going to negatively impact the person who's already on their journey. So we have to be so careful and so selective, and that means that we've had to turn down or refuse a number of people.
I think as the organisation grows and we are able to grow our team and hire more, experienced people in particular areas, then we'll be able to help a wider range of people, because that's what it is at the minute. We don't have the experience to safely. It's all about safety for us, to be fair. We can't safely support someone if we don't know how to. But as our organisation grows and the team grows,
we'll have people who can deal with a wider set, a wider range of support needs.
And I guess part of people that you meet and that even that you necessarily can't help is kind of, in a way, research, because you're seeing obviously you've got to grow at a certain rate, and you've got to bring certain people in at a certain time, but you're seeing which people you need as a priority, what kind of support specialists do you need most, because there is obviously a lot of different people you could be bringing in. So you're looking at and thinking, well, we're seeing a lot of people with certain issues, that we could help if we had these people more than we're seeing of this group that we could have with this person.
It's a great
and
point.
obviously there's a whole lot more goes into it, and a lot of people have, a lot of people have more than one. Very few people with mental issues or addiction issues have one. In fact, a lot of the time, mental addiction issues are probably massively closely related to mental issues a lot of the time. So it's not necessarily quite so simple as go, well, if we get that expert, we can help all of them. But you're getting an idea of where most help's needed, where you can do the best good without putting your project at risk by running before you before you can walk, sort of thing.
Yeah, it definitely guides our growth, I think. It's opened our eyes. Obviously we've got, as an organisation, you need to have goals and plans and all that anyway. And it's definitely opened our eyes to what other vulnerable groups can we support. As I said, at the minute we do only house single males. That's not going to be how we go on forever. It's going to our organisation will adapt to support other vulnerable groups that do still face homelessness. But it's like you say, by meeting different kinds of people that have been referred to us, it does open your eyes to, there's just a massive need that, a massive need, especially anywhere, but in Nottingham, obviously for us, where we live and our community, there's a massive need that even before we started Rene House, we weren't even aware. And it's things, it's not, to me, it's not spoken about enough. People aren't aware of literally how bad the issue is, because it's kind of just a thing that nobody talks about.
It's the sort of secret shame, sort of hidden problem, isn't it? And I think, it's not just the people that are homeless, but it's those people that are, very vulnerable to that. And I think that's sort of thing, the vast majority of people are sort of only 2 months pay away from being at risk of homelessness, and anyone's job can, I saw something the other day that says, you're much closer, most people are much closer to being homeless than they are to being a millionaire. I think I saw that go around. But so many people, I think they're just that, on the path to being a millionaire and don't realise. And it can even be a simple thing as, like I say, you only have to, an injury, an accident, and your job puts you out of work, particularly if you're in one of the more, this, what they call it, this sort of gig economy, maybe the 0 hour economy, or if you're self-employed or something like that, you're at very real risk.
So
or
literally, you could be a tradesman, you fall off your ladder. You're a self-employed tradesman. How are you gonna, do you know what I mean? Provide for yourself for the next few months.
It's simple things. Well, not simple things, but one of the biggest things is a breakdown of a relationship. If you split up with your partner, and you leave the family home, and a lot of people say, why do you only house men at the minute? It's like, well, who's likely to leave the home? A man's likely to leave the home. Call it pride, or I don't know, if his children are there as well, he's going to go. And especially when it comes down to like breakdown of relationship, and and I know obviously we are aware of females and fleeing domestic violence, and again, it's a vulnerable group that needs that support as well. But something as simple as a falling out, a breakdown of your relationship, you're homeless. You've got no home, and for a lot of people as well, that people don't realise, if you don't have an address, you can't get a job, because you're not registered anywhere. And it's awful. We have a lot of people that get referred to as like, I just want a job, but because I'm capable of work and I've got this skill set and I've got this, my CV's done, and I've had interviews and I would have got the job, but I ain't got anywhere to live. and it's awful, isn't it? 'Cause it's like, okay, so to get that, if you got that job, you'd have been able to pay rent. And
but then it also works the other way around. We literally heard, I think yesterday or the day before, someone was talking about a woman that they know who's got a full-time job as a teacher and sleeps in a car. She doesn't have anywhere to live. And she's got a full-time job.
Yeah.
In what people would consider
a decent job.
You've got that. They will have been trained. They've been college, university to get that job.
Yeah, but it's that thing as well. A lot of people, when you say homeless, you think, oh, street homeless, people that sit in doorways overnight, and it's not. Homelessness it's not having a secure place. So it's sofa surfing. Yeah. There's there's entrenched homeless people that you don't see because they make it their mission for you to not see them. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be found. A lot of people don't want to be supported. They've been let down too long, too many times and stuff. So, but yeah, sharing with a friend.
Being in overcrowded.
Yeah, overcrowded houses.
Like there's so many things that count as being technically homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people do sleep in their cars as well. That's but I think, again, before we set up Rene House, we were aware of homelessness, and we'd helped out feeding the homeless, but until we started this, it sounds absolutely awful. If you walk through town, I think you're able to just have your blinkers on and not realise all these people sat in the street. And when we do this, like, all I see is homeless people, and I'm like, oh, did you see him? Oh, did you see it? And it's so weird, but it's like once you're aware of something, you see it a lot more.
Yeah.
It's not there a lot more. It's just that you're aware of it. And I think it's so easy to just kind of, I don't know, just not see them. And yeah, just not see them. And it's just, it's sad, really. It is really sad. And there's, like you say, the stigma towards people that are homeless. And to be fair, some of the nicest people.
Yeah.
That we've met, and that's why we help. I guess that's why we help them.
And it is. I mean, I remember last year, or it might have been the year before, where I think it was the Nottingham City Council. I don't know if you're aware. They ran a sort of poster campaign on bins and things in the city, telling people not to give money to homeless people. And then, look, there was a big backlash, and they got rid of it, but. That sort of but that mentality feeds down. Occasionally I make that mistake of reading comments online, and the amount of times you see people saying the same thing. I won't give money to them, they're all just going to spend it on drugs. And I mean, I get quite annoyed when they say, well, you give them money and they buy a drink, and I'm like, well, if I was sleeping on the street, I'd buy alcohol and all and drink myself to the point where I didn't feel it. What do you expect someone to do?
It's cold.
It is.
It's cold.
It's freezing cold. People are horrible. Some of the people are horrible. There's horrible people that throw things, attack them, and it's massively. It's going to be heartbreakingly depressing for somebody, particularly, like you say. The people that maybe 2 months ago thought they had everything, and their life is just for various reasons.
We say that all the time. They get labelled, alkies, druggies, all that, and I think. If I'd lost everything and I had to sit on the street and sleep on the street, I think I'd take anything I possibly could to block out the reality of the situation. And it's...
I think it's the thing where we can understand it, we don't condone it.
You don't condone it, you understand it.
We understand it.
Yeah.
And I think...
I get why you would. And I think a lot of people... Again, it's just the craziest thing, because a lot of people live in houses and are addicted to drugs, and are alcoholics, and are, criminals, offenders, but they live in a house, so that's okay. But it's not. But because people are homeless, they're targeted in a different way, and saying, well, if you weren't an alcoholic, you wouldn't be homeless. Wrong, because they're not homeless. Some people are homeless because of addiction, but it's wrong to just assume. To just
paint everyone with the same sort of brush.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, and as we talk about it, I'm like, because so many people have accommodation but are just have the same issues.
Yeah.
It's just that these guys don't have the accommodation,
Yes.
so it's kind of a different light shone on them. And you know, when people are behind closed doors, you can kind of forget about the problems. But when they're on your streets and when they're sat on the doorsteps and in doorways, and you know, it's looked at very differently. But actually, give them a home and then help them with their issues, they're likely to, again, not everyone, but they're likely to actually turn their life around. And all they need is that helping hand and that chance. And it's just extremely frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think that unfortunately, as a sort of society, it makes life easier for people to just label.
Yeah.
And it's similar to, you know, the sort of way that people on benefits have always been labelled in the same way. And I mean, I've never get so sick of hearing the thing, well, they've all got flat screen tellies. That's because they can't go out.
Yeah.
That's all they can do. It's like, well, why are they buying takeaways? It was because literally they've been to work all week, you know, or maybe they've not been at work, they can't get a job, whatever. It's this idea that if you're getting help, you shouldn't be allowed any enjoyment in life.
Shouldn't be allowed to live your life.
And it's again, it's the stigma. But I think an element of it is to, one, it means people can feel happy about not helping, but also I think a lot of it I think there's been an element from governments and the media to try and get us to punch down as opposed to up.
Yeah.
In terms of dealing with issues.
I think, like, you know, obviously you mentioned earlier the article as when we were in the Nottingham Post. That's the first time we've ever been in the media about this, and we were approached on that. We didn't, you know, we didn't go out seeking that. We were approached by the Nottingham Post, and I think it really shocked me. It actually really upset me. Some of the comments. The majority of them were so supportive and amazing. It was so nice, the support we got. But you just had these people and you think, what's possessed you to make a comment like that? And I think it did upset me for a long time. And I remember sitting talking to you like I just
found
upset.
it funny because it was kind of like, well, you literally have nothing better to do.
Yeah. But I think that's it. I think we're in, you know, the world today. I think people like to complain and like to find the bad in something or try and find the bad. A lot of the comments were just nonsense, and actually they didn't know what they were talking about because what they said was complete, like.
Because the thing is, you know, if you like, especially to something like the article that was written about us, if you've got something that disagrees with something that we said and you put that forward in sort of a sensible argument saying, I disagree with you, or I think this is a bad idea, or I don't agree with this because of X, Y, and Z, then, do you know what I mean? You can have a conversation with someone like that, and you can, constructive, like, we're more than open to constructive criticism. Tell us how to do this better. We're very honest and open about the fact that we've started this and we don't know everything about what we're doing, and some of the stuff, like some of the moves that we make are just kind of, let's try this and see how it works, and then we kind of adjust after that. So that's fine. We're more than happy to get constructive criticism. But you know, when you just get silly comments and people just saying dumb stuff, it's like, well, I just found it funny. I think that's more a reflection of you than it is of us.
Yeah.
It's just like,
but again, as well, in the article, like I said to you, it was at the drop of a hat. We weren't prepared. It was very much just a conversation like this, to be fair, over the phone. And we didn't expect the call. It was just random. So we were very much caught off guard. But also, that what you can sort of condense down and put in an article.
Yeah.
And what actually, you know, this is what the media is. And the article was amazing. Didn't say nothing that we didn't say. It's just how, if people have got questions, then ask your questions. Don't assume, you know, there was a comment floating around several times, oh, it's just, so they're getting the government to pay their mortgages then. Well, no, because actually we don't own the houses.
Yeah.
And even if it was, well, we're housing homeless people and the government...
It's no different to
it's
people
benefits.
who have benefit tenants that
pay their mortgage.
Pay the landlord's mortgage. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, it was just pointless comments. But yeah, we've learned, obviously, the way, like you say, the way media portrays things, or the way it comes across. It's not how it's portrayed, it's people's perception of it. And I think
that's important. It's not, I think it's easy to sometimes say, oh, it's the media. Sometimes it is people's interpretation of what the media has written as well. So it is definitely a two-way thing.
Yeah, I
think the problem is that particularly now with the print media, it's all about, you've got to sell copies, and as I was saying in another episode recently, unfortunately sensationalism sells. So it's local media is slightly different, which is why you get articles like yourselves, but on a bigger scale they don't sell copies based on telling about the great people going out and helping in the community. They sell copies about the homeless person throwing things at someone in the street, or unfortunately.
And I think it was really nice of Gurjeet, the guy who wrote the article about us. I think I've read some of his other articles, and he is genuinely one of the good guys who's trying to push out positivity out there through his journalism. And I think he's highlighted a number of people in and around Nottingham who are doing amazing things. So I think that was educational for me to realise that not all media is trying to push that. So there are some people, but it's just a shame that, like you're saying, it's the sensational stuff, the sensationalist headlines that get the most attraction.
I definitely think that's unfortunately it's more of a local media thing, as you say, because that is, they can promote that, that kind of story. It's sort of the heart of the community type story. So it's why it's so important in the local media.
And that's what
is supported at a time when it's really struggling.
Yeah, and the overall support, as I say, the overall response to it was amazing, wasn't it? We didn't even expect to get that response in general. We didn't expect it to go like as viral as it did. To be fair, I thought it would have about 16 people read it or something, and it's just not what we expected. And like a lot of people were saying, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And again, we just raised a bit more of an awareness towards homelessness, especially in Nottingham, because obviously where we're based, and it was
nice. It was around Christmas as well, so I think people must have been feeling especially sort of.
I think there's definitely a thing, isn't there, that you see that at Christmas definitely a lot more. And it's kind of like, it's great, it's lovely and it's great, and it's like, but these people need help all. I'm not, you're not going to criticise anyone for helping at any time, but and look, I think Nottingham is. I mean, I say this from someone who has no experience with any other cities on the minute, but personally, I think there's some great groups in Nottingham. There's groups that go out and out at night and feed and hand food out and things like that. So, there's part of me that wants to say they shouldn't have to. In this day and age, nobody should be, sleeping on the streets and not being supported. But you can't sit, and I've had this discussion with people before when, food banks, for example, and people are saying there shouldn't be food banks. You're right, they shouldn't, but you can't deal in what there should and shouldn't be. You can deal in what there is. Saying there shouldn't be food banks, the government should be funding it, isn't going to feed those people that don't have food, isn't going to home those people that are currently living on the streets. And
I think
organised like places like you are.
A lot of people that have this opinion of what should and shouldn't be aren't actually contributing to what is, like you say, what is happening. And again, it did take me a while with the comments and stuff, but I sat back and thought, at least we're doing something, at least we're trying. And to be fair, it's the first, we've both said we've had a lot of jobs, and even now we still both work part-time because Rene House, so we've had all that, money grabbing and blah, blah, blah. We don't actually get paid from our organisation yet. And I think we both work, but this is the first time in my working life where I've actually felt like, okay, this is like I've got a purpose every night, regardless of what happens. Every night and every day I wake up, I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Something good's going to happen now because of what we're doing, and because you know, a lot of people do good things to give themselves a good feeling, and this, we're no different. It gives us a good feeling, but what we're doing is actually changing people's lives, and that could be, you know, 4 people or 400 people. We're changing the lives of others in the best way we can and how we know how to, basically. So I think it's the first time for me where
I've same, definitely.
Getting up and coming to work.
Yeah, because I've had a lot of, I've had a load of different jobs in a load of different industries, and yeah, I'd definitely say it's up there, and it's up there probably the best sort of job that I've had, where I know that I genuinely have such an impact on making a difference in people's lives. So it's not only that I've got a job that I can change people's lives, but I'm in control of an organisation. So genuinely, my word carries weight within our organisation on, do we decide to do this or do we decide to do that? And obviously, my decision will have an impact. And sometimes that works the other way, where my decision has meant that something, do you know what I mean, might not be the best option. But do you know what I mean, I'm very much an open book, and I try and learn from my mistakes and stuff like that, and take responsibility when I've made a poor choice and stuff like that. So
I think that's it. When it's your own organisation, you have to kind of take responsibility for the good and the bad.
Yeah, there's no way.
You can't just say, I did that good thing, and then run away when it's bad.
I guess the other thing though is again, at least you can say, oh yes, that was the wrong decision, you know, in hindsight, but you took that decision because you thought it was the right decision, but also you knew it was your decision. You're not forced. You're not being criticised, or you're not looking at something as a bad decision that you were doing because that's what you had to do because of within the framework that you were working, whether it be rules of, you know, the organisation policies and things like that, where you might have that same annoyance but had no control in it. At least this time you could say, yeah, it was the wrong decision, that's on me, I know I made that decision, best intention, and also I know that next time I won't have to, because if you're working on the policy and things, you're thinking that was a terrible decision, and next week I'm going to have to do that all over again because that's the way we would work. Now you can, like you said, this is a learn.
I'm the one in charge of then changing that policy to make it fit and be the right thing.
Next time it'll be moving more towards.
You were saying, was it yesterday? I think you were saying, because we were laughing about. So it's been 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years or so of just pure grafting, and we were laughing. Said, you know, if this was for anyone else, we'd have walked away, because we like
the amount of work that we've done in the last 2 years and we've not been paid a penny. It's absolutely crazy. So that
we're still excited to get up every day and do it all again.
Do you know what I mean? So would I do this for someone else? Not a chance. No. Not a chance for free. Not a chance. But it's like, so it's a win-win situation, because we get what we want. We want to be running our own organisation. We want to have that autonomy to make choices, to make big decisions, whether the outcome is good or bad, and be able to take responsibility. Obviously, it's great when it comes off and it's a positive outcome, and we help someone, we move them forward in their journey and stuff like that. But it also means that we take responsibility when stuff doesn't go to plan as well.
But then at least you know that when they're not going to plan, that's all part of moving towards. It's all moving forward, and it's all a learning, and it's all an improving. It's not going to be, that's the bad, that's not working, but we're going to keep doing it, which happens a lot in different walks of life.
No, and that's it. It's we're not going to learn unless we make those mistakes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty. I think it'd be more or less impossible to have come into this and just have it go perfectly.
Yeah. It wouldn't be worth it, to be honest. We wouldn't see the value in it in ourselves, because if it was yesterday, and we were saying, if it all went to plan, we wouldn't appreciate it as much as we do. But it's honestly an emotional roller coaster. You can't, and it's our entire lives. We can't have a conversation without talking about, Rene House, the next steps, what we need to be doing. It's a constant, our life is this. So if it all went swimmingly, it wouldn't be like that, would it?
The thing is as well though, in terms of, so we've not, like I said, we've not been paid from the work that we've put into Rene House and getting it to this stage and moving it forward, but the personal development journey that we've both been on has been absolutely massive. So the person I am and sort of my learning curve from where I was 2 years ago, it definitely professionally and possibly a lot personally as well, my growth curve has been massive, and that's the lessons that I've learned and in running this organisation along with Tiff is gonna stay with me for the rest of my life.
It's stuff you want to learn working with someone else, because you're not allowed to.
You're not
allowed to see the ugly in an organisation that you work for, a business that you work for, because it's all under wraps. You're not allowed to see, you're only told
you've got someone else to do
what
it.
You only get to know your bit.
Yeah,
that's it.
And it's very restrictive, and I think, the amount that we have grown individually and as a team is ridiculous. And we actually had a staff meeting, and one of our support workers said this morning, she's been with us since September, and so what's that, 4 months?
Yeah.
4 months. And she was like, she says, you guys can't see it because you're in it. She says, but the way you've grown in the last, since she's been with us, she was like, it's amazing. But because it's our everyday.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's and I was like, he was like, oh, that was nice for her to say. And I said, but if you take a step back and actually look at it, when you take yourself out of the situation a little bit, you can see how quick, like the other day, so obviously it's the 23rd now, on the 21st we're 21 days into the new year, and it feels like we're about 3 months in, because the amount that we've had to do and the amount that's happened and how quick things have moved, you don't have time to stop and realise what you've done, because you just got to keep going. So it is nice when you do get the chance, or when someone makes you realise and says, oh, well, have you seen how far you've come? And I think it is crazy when we think about it. And you was like, look how fast 2 years has gone. In 10 years' time, we'll be, and it's like, oh God, don't say that. But it will.
It's mad to think about 5 years, 10 years in the future when we just look back and see what the last 2 years has been like.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. But
it's scary, but amazing.
But no, definitely every morning wake up just excited to be able to push the needle. Do you know what I mean? Just move the ball a little bit further forward.
No day's the same either. So that's, I've been in jobs where it's so like, oh God, I already know what I'm going to be doing today because I did it yesterday. No day's the same. We don't know what to expect. You don't know what you're going to get called about. You don't know what, like today we get referrals all the time. So then we'll end up going to meet someone that we've only just heard of, and, we meet different people every single day. We speak to different people every single day, and we hear different examples of their situation. So it's just, not a single day has been the same as the last, and like tomorrow won't be like today. So it's really exciting rather than just the same old boring jobs that we've had.
I think
bosses.
it's quite obvious, how important and passionate you both are about it. And I think that's probably more key than anything. That it's, even like you said, it's a big learning curve. Tough 2 years, obviously. I'm sure there were times in those first sort of 6 months and that you maybe wondered what you were doing. Not what you do, but why were you doing this sort of thing?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Are we stupid?
But like you say, and now it's about moving forward. So I'm gonna wrap up soon because obviously it's getting on. But just a couple of things. Firstly, the name Rene House. Where did the name come from?
The name was a nightmare. It took us so long to think of a name, and we wanted something that meant, a fresh start, starting again. And Rene comes from the word Renaissance, which means born again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, let's draw a line under what's been and let's move forward. And obviously it's not literal like you being born again, but it's a fresh start. And sometimes we regret Rene because it gets pronounced wrong all the time, and we're like, oh, we should have just come, like, you know,
A
got a
name that's
simple
easy
name.
to pronounce. But yeah,
But yeah, that's
That's
where
where it
it
came
comes from, and we went through so many different names, didn't we, before it just clicked, and yeah, and that. So yeah, that's where Rene comes from. We're not Rene. No one else is Rene. Well, there's a Rene out there, but she don't have any
nothing to do with our
relation to us.
business.
Excellent. And then finally, what can sort of people that are listening out there do to help, and obviously to find out more about what you do?
So we're most active, if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, we're most active on our Instagram. If you just search Rene House, you should find it.
Rene House _CIC.
Yeah. Also, we do have a Facebook page which gets updated. That is, just again, search on Facebook for Rene House. So that's RENE House. And then we've also got a website, so that is just kept up to date with different bits. So in terms of support, we're always open to working with different support agencies. I think that's a big thing, especially in Nottingham. We found that there's so many different agencies that are doing amazing things, but it's sometimes very hard to find them.
Okay.
So yeah, we're more than happy to get emails and phone calls and be approached by different support agencies who provide drug and alcohol support, who provide mental health support, who provide budgeting, befriending, all of this kind of different stuff, work and employment and training, all of these different agencies. So we accept support through that. We do accept donations if anyone's kind enough.
That's through the website.
Yeah, so obviously, just get in touch, and we try and be as responsive as possible.
Yeah.
Landlord.
And the biggest one, how can I forget that? Landlords.
We're always open to taking on more properties. The only way we're going to be able to help more people is by having more houses.
Yes.
So obviously getting more properties and linking up with more landlords that are interested in, having a social sort of like input, such impact. So I think that's a biggie for us, is working with landlords that want to make that difference in the community. But I think also, for like anyone listening, I think it's just a massive thing, and we've said it on our Instagram recently, is just giving homeless people time. Because, a lot of people, like you said, don't give them money, don't. If you sit and have a conversation with a homeless person, I hate how they class as you're a homeless person. They're a person.
Yeah.
And just sit and talk to them, ask them if they're okay. Talk about, what you talk to your friends about. Just talk. They're not horrible, scary people. They're people that have ended up in this situation. They're people without a home, and but that doesn't mean that they're not human. And just talk to them, find out about their situation. There's always places to redirect them. There's homeless shelters, there's food banks, there's soup kitchens to direct them to. But just give them time, because we all get lonely, and we all would just like someone to take a bit of time out of the day to just have a conversation. And especially these guys on the streets, just to treat them and make them feel human again. And give them that bit of respect that everyone deserves. And I think it's a massive thing. We've been saying it for a long time. Just ask them, are you okay? And instead of just giving them money, ask if there's anything else you can help them with. Can you get them? Are you hungry? Or or speak to them if they are asking for money. Well, you okay? How much do you need? Because some of them are looking for a certain amount of money to get a bed for the night, not just to go and score. And it's. Yeah, I think that's a big thing I'd like it to sort of end on in terms of a positive. Just literally speak to them, because they are people that, they're not bad people. Some are, but they're not bad people.
No different to any other,
No different
any other
to anyone else.
person. There are, as you touched on earlier, there are
Good
plenty of bad people living in houses of all sorts, from the biggest mansions to the smallest apartments. There are in every walk of life. There are good, bad, and mostly there is those of us just you know.
And that's it. Just giving them the time.
Yeah, literally.
It could make someone's day just to sit down. Hello, how
Yeah.
are you? And you know, a lot of people, if you sat and spoke to a homeless person that's sat on the street, for whatever reason, if you found out their situation, you'd be very surprised. You know, we've come across people that are street homeless and rough sleeping, and this story of how they've ended up there is so shocking, yet so everyday, as in like, oh yeah, it could happen to everywhere, and it would hit home with a lot of people. So I think, just talk to people.
I think that's massive. I think far too many people, as you said earlier, just think that they're all homeless, you know, or most of them are homeless because they're druggies or whatever.
Yeah.
Most of them are, you know, a large proportion are homeless because of, there's various things, but because of, like you say, everyday reasons, family breakup, job loss, you know, and, you know,
for a lot of
abusive
people.
homes or, you know, homes where they're just not welcome. And it's, you know, and, you know, as we've already said, pretty much all of us, that could happen to any of us. You can't, there's very few people in this country, there's a very small percentage of people that are never at risk of things, but, you know, but for the rest of us, like you said, an accident, a breakup, a job loss, and you just don't know what's around the corner.
And I think it's just taking that time.
There's renting people there that, you know, or, you know, it can be quite easy to get behind on your mortgage for various reasons, let's say. But I think that is key, because I think people living on the street, I think one of the things as well must be the loneliness.
Yeah.
So you know, so many people around them all the time, you know, but probably as lonely as you can get.
Yeah, because no one acknowledges them, and they're being judged for something that nobody knows. If you just sit and listen to their story, there's people that aren't originally from Nottingham but have moved to Nottingham for a better life, but they've not been able to get somewhere to live. But they're not, again, necessarily bad people. They might not even have drug and alcohol issues or be an ex-offender or, you know, have, you know, severe mental health. They're just homeless because they have nowhere. And there's nothing wrong with there's such a stigma around homelessness, and there's nothing wrong. There's everything wrong with being homeless, because there shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with the people that are
make
homeless.
you automatically bad.
No.
They're not awful people.
It's so important we get away from that mentality.
Yeah. So anything that anyone can do to contribute to the fight against that would be great, and just to give people time of day.
So there you go, that was Tiffany and Theo from Rene House. What a brilliant conversation that was. Such passion around what they're doing, and commitment and hard work. I mean, just listening to it, you could see how important it was to them. I mean, you could hear them. So Tiffany especially, she was talking about some of the attitudes towards homeless people that you see in here, and how angry that made her. It's brilliant what they're doing. As she said, or as they said, if you go to Instagram's the best place to keep an eye on what they're doing. That's Rene House _CIC on Instagram. Obviously, they need support to keep this going. They're always looking for people to get involved, as they mentioned. And if you're interested in helping out, you know, maybe you're interested in donating, if you go to renehousecic.com, where you can find out a lot more about what they do, there is a donate button on there, and you can use PayPal to make a one-off donation, or you can even, you know, sign up to make a sort of monthly donation if that appeals to you. And obviously, you know, if you happen to be a landlord listening and you're interested in working with Tiffany and Theo, again, head over to their website and there's the contact details there. It's great what they're doing, and hopefully they can keep doing it, and they can get the support and people behind them they need to continue growing, and the work they're doing to help vulnerable people in Nottinghamshire. So that's this week's episode next week's episode is focused on the upcoming Nottinghamshire Festival of Science and Curiosity. That's taking place across various parts of the city as of the 12th of February running to the 19th. There's stuff going on at Sneinton Market, the libraries across the city, Wollerton Hall, Lakeside, Broadway, Backlit Gallery, various other places. So I had a chat with Megan and Louisa, who were both involved in the organisation of the festival, to find out more about the festival, its aims, what's going on, what's worth checking out, the different kind of events they've got, whether it's family events, there's some great late night events, a brilliant Valentine's Day event, which if you want to check that out, because I think that is selling fast, head over to find Festival of Science on Facebook, and there's links to how you can book on that. That's a fantastic event. It's well worth checking out. We talk about that, and in general, in sort of the importance of science and engaging young people in science and things like that. So fantastic to find out more about that. Hopefully you'll hear that, and if you're not already planning to get along to some of the events going on, that might just encourage you to do so. And what's more, much of it is taking place during the half term, so some great stuff you can do with the kids if that's what you're looking for, because obviously particularly this time of year when the weather's not particularly pleasant. Other episodes we've got coming up, we've also got an episode with Nottingham Lions Football Club, who are an LGBT plus friendly club. So we spoke to a couple of members of the club. They came along with a chat about sort of foundation of the club, how it got started, it's where it is now, how it's grown, some of the brilliant stuff they're doing. They play all across the country and even in Europe in events, and why the club has been such a success and how it moves forward. That was a great chat. And we've also got an episode coming up with Purple Mamba, which you may know as the adult swinging club, which is based in West Bridgford. I had a chat to talk about sort of how they've dealt with this sort of the stigma attached to those kind of clubs, and providing a place for consenting adults to enjoy themselves, which is how it should be. And I think that's a great chat that will be coming out in a couple of weeks as well. We've got more shows lined up, and obviously everything we've done today is available at ngdigital.podbean.com, as always on iTunes, Spotify and the like. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we are going to be trying to push our Instagram, which is ng.digital. It's a bit of a barren wasteland at the moment, but we're going to be making more of that. And as ever, Twitter at ngdigitaluk, facebook.com/ngdigital. Do get in touch. Please let us know what you think of the podcasts, who you'd like to hear on it. Please check out the work Rene House are doing. It's fantastic stuff. And hopefully you'll be back next week for episode 28, which is about the Nottingham Festival of Science and Curiosity. For now, that's it, and goodbye.